Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. For those of you who tune in every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here live on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live, welcome back. And for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time to Mental Health Moment with Dr. Hammond, we are here live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. For those of you who are watching the replay on Dr. Nikisha Hammond YouTube page, be sure to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the page. And thanks for those who are starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you've had an absolutely wonderful and amazing week. Hi, welcome, welcome. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from today. I reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. I know many of you are all over, so it's so cool to always see where you're tuning in from. But again, welcome, welcome. Hearts back to you as well for that person in the comment. So, for those of you new to Mental Health Moment is all about how do you work on becoming the best version of who you are, right? So you can show up powerfully for yourself and for the people around you. Because a lot of times, something I preach often is about holistic self care. And a lot of times, even though, well, last week we talked a little bit about the guilt sometimes that comes with self care, but also recognize that it's not selfish to take care of yourself because you're not only positively impacting yourself, but also it can help the people around you as well. So it's a bonus, right? Good evening from Boston. Welcome. DMV's in the house. Welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for those who are starting to join here. Again, let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from today. And welcome, welcome again. Trying to think my announcements today. Quick announcements. So drnikishahammond.com/events is where you can go to find updated information where I'm speaking or just new exciting updates going on at the time. So next month, there are two, I'm not actually sure if it's on the website yet, but check back to drnikishahammond.com/events. I can't remember if it's up there or not, but next in April, I'll be speaking in Clearwater and also another part of Tampa Bay. And we'll have all that information on the website. You can also follow me at Dr. Nikisha Hammond on any social media platform. Typically, I am posting things related to wellness, which is one of my favorite topics, personally and professionally, because we just all need to stay uplifted, to stay inspired. It can be hard. There's a lot of bumps in the road because why not? Right? That's what life brings at us, but it can just help to try to get back into a positive state of mind, right? So, a lot of my content is centered around your well-being and making sure that you stay uplifted and motivated. But again, thanks for those who are starting to join here. Let me know in the comments here where you are tuning in from today. And hopefully my comments will come in. Sometimes they do, and some weeks they don't feel like it for some reason because of technology. So I see a couple of comments. I know there's more, but and sometimes they just pop up randomly like halfway through the live. So keep leaving your comments in there and hopefully they'll start to show again. But nonetheless, so today's mental health moment, I feel like we've been on a theme this year with mental health moment because it's just been just a lot happening, whether it's in the news, whether it's in our personal lives or professional lives or social media or whatever. Like it can feel disorienting sometimes when there's so much happening all at once. So I feel like the theme so far of this year for mental health moment has been just like how do we get back to ourselves and just have some sort of normalcy maybe and just continue to work on having the self-care in place. But on today's mental health moment, welcome from Texas. Thanks for joining here. And South Carolina's in the house. Welcome, welcome. But today's mental health moment, I wanted to talk to you about how to work on letting go of things that, and here's the asterisk, the things that you cannot control. Okay. Because a lot of times, Raleigh, North Carolina is in the house. Welcome, welcome. A lot of times we tend to hear, I know it's all over social media, like just let it go. And, as if our emotions are a light switch, which they're not. We're allowed to process, we're allowed to have feelings, we're allowed to feel things. However, the process of working on letting go can be a little bit more helpful when you add on, like I said, that asterisk of letting go things that you cannot control. And and if you think about, well, let me take a step back. The first step in this is really your awareness. And I feel like I say awareness 95 times throughout mental health moments sometimes, but it really is the first step. It is really easy, you all, to get inundated with information, to get overwhelmed by everything going on in your external environment and not take care of your inner world, if you will. And when I say inner world, like your thoughts and your habits and how are you doing, all of those things, right? It's very easy to get caught up. But it's important that you have some awareness of currently right now in your life. If you were to take an inventory right now for you, you think about the things that you're worrying about, the things that you're stressing about. How much of that is within your control, right? And I'm not saying that nothing is in your control. Of course not, right? Like our actions, what we decide to do, that's within our control. But certain things around you may not be within your control. So try to really take a step back this upcoming week and start to ask yourself, the thing that I'm worrying about, is this even within my control? Is this even is was this even a result of something I did, or is this something I can even change? And the answer may be yes. Granted, the answer may be yes. But a lot of times there's also things that the answer is no. Like it wasn't within your control. There's not really anything you can do about it except to change your perspective of it and change your thoughts surrounding it. But certain situations you just cannot change, right? It's outside of your control. For example, something I hear about often when I speak to different groups and different corporations is, for example, and again, all of us have our thing, but if it's just a toxic, horrible coworker, for example, who says certain things or does certain things or gets on your nerves, or that person that you're like, oh my goodness, you you may not be able to control, right, their what they're saying to you, or their decisions that they're making, or how they're coming about, coming at you, if you will, hopefully not at you specifically, but just who they are as a person. You can't control that, but for you, you can work on controlling how do you react to that. Do you allow that to destroy your peace, your inner peace, right? Like those are things that we can control. And I'm not saying this is always easy. I'm not saying this is always easy. I know sometimes it is hard, especially if this particular person, maybe in the workplace, for example, is someone you might see daily or someone you can't reduce your time around. Maybe you're working on the same project together or whatever it is, right? It's hard. It's not an easy thing, but it's first again, and it might not be a coworker, it might be another situation, but it's whatever it is right now that you're worrying about. Is it something within your control? That's question one, right? And if the answer is no, it's not within your control, then you start to take the steps of saying, okay, I am going to release this. I am going to let this go. This is not within my control. How can I, right, best shift your mindset to understand that that particular situation or thing or person or whatever is not within your control, right? It's getting into that thought process that can help you to work on shifting your mindset. And again, this is not overnight, right? Because a lot of things just take time. Someone said they're watching from United Kingdom. Welcome, welcome. Um, Illinois is in the house. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining here. Um, and I don't know if there's a lot of comments right now. Now the comments are starting to come in. And if there's Okay. Anyhow, speaking of ignoring things outside of your control, if there happens to be any spam in the comments, just ignore them. um, how timely, right? But nonetheless, I want you to really think about that heading into your week this week of asking yourself, like, this thing that I'm stressing about, is it within my control? Right? I see there's so much that's happened in the last couple of months. There's so much that's happening in the news. There's so much just so much is happening around, and some of those things are just not within my control, right? Like those are things that I have to ask myself too, is this even within my control? But again, if it is within your control, there's still a way too that you can work on releasing that stress, understanding, okay, what steps do you need to take to resolve that situation or best deal with that situation? And how can you let go? Because sometimes we have an attachment to a certain outcome than a certain situation. And that causes the stress, right? Like, what are the chances of that particular outcome even happening? Because a lot of studies show that there's a, I don't know, 90 something percent chance that a lot of things that we stress and worry about are not even going to happen, right? And I know that doesn't necessarily make anxiety and worry lessen all the time, but also know that there's a high chance that like the majority of what we worry and stress about is not going to happen. It's that stress of anticipation that leads to a lot more stress. And sometimes we can spiral into more negative thinking and more negative thinking, right? But it might be something that's not even going to happen, right? So remember that. Someone said kindness and free and remaining focused on your goals. Yes, absolutely. And again, remember, if you stop to think and remember that there are so many distractions out there when it comes to, again, like that person said, staying focused on your own goals, your own wellness goals, taking care of you. There are a gazillion distractions out there, but when you work on taking the time to understand that you deserve to have self-care, you deserve to be emotionally healthy, you deserve to spend time on yourself to better yourself. When it really becomes a part of who you are, that's when you start to see a lot of changes start to happen in your life. And also, I am not saying to ignore the things going on around you, right? Like there's just certain things and maybe with family or friends or work or whatever things happening in your life that you can't ignore. Fair enough, but it's an and conversation. It's also like, and you're going to take care of yourself and you're going to work on recognizing what are things outside of your control. How can I work on letting go? How can I work on releasing this amount of stress? Like asking yourself those questions. Someone's here from Orlando, Florida. Welcome. California, USA is in the house. Welcome, welcome. Someone said another person's actions is not within my control, but I can acknowledge my truth and address their actions in a professional manner. Yes. Yes, exactly. It's it's so, oh, it's so hard. Man, that's a whole nother mental health moment, y'all. It's so hard because sometimes we take things personally that people are doing or saying, and it really has nothing to do with us. There's a lot of studies on that too. Again, that's a whole nother mental health moment. It's people, I mean, people are just going through stuff. And again, there's a whole spectrum on that. Empathy is a real thing. Empathy is important. There's also boundaries. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of actions and what people do. And all the things or what people say, right? But certain things, people are just going through things. They're angry, they're upset, they're hurting, they're anxious, or whatever they're going through. And then sometimes that sort of projects out on the person watching this. And then we have decisions that we have to make mentally, right? Like how to process that, all of that. Um, global phenomenon, you're right. We just need to focus more on self. Absolutely. Even though still to this, well, I feel like it's a little bit better in the world of mental health, like, "Hey, feel free to, like, take care of yourselves." I feel like that message is starting to come through. Of course, we have self-care as a buzz term, but there's also another theme or thread sometimes that I'm hearing that's still like, don't take care of yourself. Like, you don't have time to take care of yourself. And it's like, that's not true. So those are things that we have to really unlearn. Tennessee's in the house. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Alexandria, Virginia's in the house. Oh, I love that. Someone said, my favorite words from a song by Fantasia is nothing more beautiful than knowing yourself. Self-love is the best love. Yes. I love that. That's beautiful. Um, Oh, someone said actually knowing your worth. Beautiful. All good. Knowing yourself, knowing your worth, all good, all good. Um, yes, very beautiful. And we definitely, yes, need to focus more on ourselves. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to thrive. You're allowed to be successful. You're allowed to be happy in the process. You're allowed to be emotionally healthy. Again, that's a whole nother mental health moment, but sometimes there's some worthiness issues or self-love issues or those sorts of things that make us think we don't deserve those things, but we do, right? You do deserve those things. So, just want to say that. Um, but again, so as I wrap up today's mental health moment, I do want to remind you that you can work on letting go of things that are outside of your control. When you really take an inventory, even if you were to like take a sheet of paper and draw a huge circle, right? Your life and think of the things that are stressful for you right now. We all have different stresses. Everybody on the planet has problems of some sort. They're different depending on who you are, where you live, all the things. But though, if you put your bigger problems, if you will, in that circle, and then you start to sit there and circle, like, okay, but this is what I cannot control, can't control this, can't control this, can't control this, I can control this, right? Like you start to really visually see if you're a visual person, you can do that exercise, but you can start to visually see that, oh my goodness, look at all these things that they're not even within my control, and I'm stressing about it, right? And so, I mean, and again, stress and worry is not like a light switch where I can be like, "Oh, just don't stress about it," and it's gonna go away, but it's working on reminding yourself, "I cannot these are things outside of my control," right? I can control how I react to these said situations, but this is outside of my control, and working on bringing your stress level down regarding that particular situation, right? And problems are on a spectrum, y'all. So um again, it depends what the problem is. I've spoken to many, many people throughout my career, and there's some like really difficult, traumatic, or really difficult, hard things that take time to heal from. And then we have our, everyday things that sometimes I might need a couple days to get over, right? So problems are on the spectrum. So I want you to keep that in mind too. But work on changing your mindset in that way to really be asking yourself, is this within my control? Um, yep. Someone said question themselves and then have deep prayer. Beautiful. And there's a lot of different ways we can cope. If prayer is one of the things for you, by all means, that can be something that's helpful for you as well, or clarifying is good too. Someone said it's important to take a moment and remind yourself to check on yourself. We often forget to do this when we're wrapped in the chaos of the trauma and realize a little too late. Stress is real. Stress is very real. Stress is very real. I feel like you all, oh my gosh, every time I do research, so I'm in a lot of different spaces right now and I love what I'm doing, but a lot of different spaces I'm in, I would say the number one conclusion, whether I'm in a space where there's some type of health, like physical health thing that I'm looking into, or of course the mental health side, or just all the different spaces I'm in, I feel like it really does all boil down to stress. I'm like, oh, look, there's this medical issue that this person had, which stress made it worse. Or on the mental health side, like here's a mental health issue that this person had, and stress made it work. Like there's just so much information out there, and it just really leads to how stress can tear down our bodies and our minds and our souls, which is why I'm on mental health moment every week with you all. No. Because again, when we really start to take the time to work on ourselves and take the time, like I said again, to reduce your stress level, it's going to help you. It could help you. I can't promise anything, but there's a high chance that it'll help you physically and emotionally and mentally and spiritually. But we have to get to that mental place, and it takes time. And do not blame yourself throughout the process wherever you're at, right? Um, so someone said in a toxic environment or situations, one needs to know when to fight, but learn to flee slash step aside when there is need to do so. Yes. And it really it's hard to talk about toxic environments because I've heard so many stories actually about that. And again, that's on a spectrum, but it's working on that awareness, which I think is the theme of today's mental health moment, really. It's working on that mental awareness. It's working on taking the pause. We talked about that a couple mental health moments ago, but taking the pause to be like, let me take a step back really quick and assess what is going on. I also know this is a difficult thing to do, especially when it comes to strong emotions. If you're really sad or really anxious or really angry or really having like strong emotions, it is more difficult to see clearly of what's going on because we tend to distort at that point. So what we're seeing in front of us might not even be happening, but our emotions tell us a different story. So I recognize that it's hard to do sometimes, but it's a practice you can start to put in place and you get better and better at it of becoming more aware. Okay, is this something within my control? How am I reacting to this? Am I allowing this person, thing, situation, or whatever to consume my life? Like you, right? Like asking yourself these questions, working on letting go. And again, not an overnight process, again, by any means. Someone said praying in the comments. Beautiful, right? So again, we have to be aware. And the second thing is, how do you work on letting go, right? If it's prayer, I know a lot of people said prayer in here. People said, like, kind of talking to that individuals, having self love. Someone said focusing more on self in here, acknowledging my truth, like, right? Like being kind to others. Like, there's a lot of ways to work on letting go. But the first thing is the awareness, right? So I love it. I love it. And thank you all for sharing today. Beautiful. Okay, so for real, I want to wrap up today's mental health moment here. But I do want to remind you to, yes, and many people said it in the comments, make sure you are checking in with yourself. I know it's hard because we tend to check in with everybody else and everything else. We're checking our phones, we're checking everything, like everything else gets checked except for us sometimes. So check in with yourself, asking yourself, how am I doing? What do I need emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically? And then asking yourself, what step do you need to take today? Maybe it's a baby step that counts. What step do you need to take today in order to make those changes in your life? Okay. So I will be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Be blessed. Have an amazing, outstanding week. Not just amazing, but outstanding week too. And someone said deep breathing frequently. I love it. And avoid conflict. Um, and thank you all for sharing. I'm so glad that I actually saw the comments today because sometimes I can't, which I'm like, no, because I like seeing what you all have to say. So yay, I could actually see the comments. Technology worked today. It was on our side today. Celebrate. And someone said, amen. Yes, that's how I feel. But I'll be back next Tuesday, like I said, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here live on Black Women Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Have a great week. See you all next week. Bye, guys.